A big question today, should the U.S. send a representative to the funeral of Fidel Castro, someone as high up as President Obama, maybe the vice president? Many critics say no way, including our next guest, the daughter of Cuban political refugees. Ana Quintana, policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation, is here to explain. Good morning, and it's nice to have you here.
Hey, good morning.
As I mentioned, you're first-generation Cuban-American. What are your thoughts about at least paying respects, even if you completely disagree with the dictator, and trying to open a new channel, a new day in U.S.-Cuban relations?
Well, I mean, for the past 2 years, that's what the president's been attempting to do. And I think every which way, it's been an absolute failure. Political arrests in Cuba are at an all-time high. This year, they've reached 10,000. Repression and persecution against Cuba's religious community is also at an all-time high. So, you know, kind of opening a new relationship with the Cuban government when they don't want it has really been unsuccessful. And as for the matter of that being all of a sudden changed now with sending a U.S. representative to his funeral, I mean, that just strategically would be a terrible mistake.
Look at Jill Stein said, the Green Party candidate for president. She actually put this on Twitter yesterday, quote, Fidel Castro was a symbol of the struggle for justice in the shadow of empire, present day. Anna, as someone who's a first-generation Cuban-American, how do you react to that?
I mean, you have to consider this, right? For the Cuban community, for the Cuban exile community, Fidel Castro was the Cuban community's Hitler. I mean, I have so many times, my grandfather used to tell us stories of how he would have to hide indoors and others would hide indoors while Fidel Castro's firing squads would slaughter people right outside. I mean, and my family left during the Mariel Exodus. They sought asylum at the Peruvian embassy. Their house was completely destroyed, and to this day, they've never been able to go back. So to see somebody like Jill Stein dishonor the memory of so many good people who were victims of Fidel Castro it's pretty repulsive.
Wow, that's chilling to hear you talk about that in terms of firing squads. I mean, I know we talk about this big picture, but when you hear about actual families hiding in homes because of firing squads going around to kill people, it obviously puts a much finer point on this. But let's look forward. Okay, so that's in the past. Fidel Castro is now dead. What does President-elect Trump do to take what might be a bad hand because of what you say with President Obama? He started opening relations, normalizing them, but didn't get any concessions, didn't get political prisoners out, didn't make Raul Castro, Fidel's brother, change any behavior. I got all that. But what does President-elect Trump do next?
Well, moving forward, I mean, there's various concrete steps that he can take. One, he can stand publicly and meet publicly with dissidents, with human rights leaders from the island. I mean, optics matter, and we know this, and this is something that President Obama has neglected to do time and time again. I mean, when he was in Cuba, over 500 dissidents, many of them who had appointments to meet with him that was cleared by the Cuban government, were arrested en route to meet with him. That should have been interpreted as an act of aggression, and America should have responded in kind, but instead Obama ended up at a baseball game with Raul Castro and FARC terrorists. So I'm hoping that President Trump's team will guide him President-elect Trump's team will guide him in a better direction. And if his statement yesterday was any indication, I think we're in for some good
I've got 30
action.
seconds, but if Donald Trump comes in and does what he said, which is that he'll just overturn all of the executive actions that President Obama took, aren't we sort of back to square one? Is there a better way forward?
I think we need to look at the fact that there are 11 million hostages in Cuba, right? The Cuban people. And it's not so much whether we're back to square one, because I think we're already at a net negative in terms of our policy towards Cuba. So anything that President Trump would do at this point would make the situation much better.
Well, Ana Quintana, we appreciate you coming in today, telling your story, and we hope your family, if you still have family there, are doing okay. Thanks
God
again.
bless. Have a great day.